And we are back with the Bourbon Note. I'm Greg.
And Ben.
Today, we're drinking a bourbon from Tennessee. Not a Tennessee whiskey. This is going to be interesting.
Interesting.
And we'll offend some people along the way.
Probably.
All right. All right, let's bring it out.
Okay, so here's a little side notice.
This is a story.
Well, it's not really a story, but it's like, what would be a really good early morning bourbon? What's your go-to first thing in the morning, immediately when you wake up, put on your robe, go sit downstairs in front of the fire on a cold winter morning, whiskey?
You know, the truth of the matter is I've never done that.
I haven't either, but it sounds delightful, actually.
And I'm wondering why
Have
not.
one and then go back to bed. Just a little eye opener, and then immediately back to bed. Or back to bed an hour later.
I have never done that.
Well, maybe we'll do a video this winter. We'll wake up at like 6:30 and film one of these.
Yep.
Anyway, the reason I bring that up is because we have, bam, this is Stillhouse, America's finest black bourbon, Tennessee bourbon. And the reason I brought up the morning thing is that this particular bourbon is rested and mellowed in small batch coffee beans. So, presumably they take a regular bourbon. Mm-hmm. I think is it chill filtered, non-chill filtered? And then they rest it and just, I guess, let it soak and pick up some flavors from the coffee beans. So, should be interesting.
Yep, we've had it, but it's been a while.
Yeah.
It's not coffee flavored.
Yeah, that's the thing that I think is actually kind of cool about this, where I'm not super into flavored bourbon or flavored whiskey.
Yep.
I will say I do like a peanut butter whiskey on the rocks from time to time.
Agreed.
I'm in a really desserty sort of mood.
Agreed.
But I don't really, I just look at that as more like a sweet drink rather than a pour of whiskey.
Yep.
So,
and side note,
geez.
Yeah, it's a really weird way to bottle it, being a metal can.
An oil can?
Oil can with a metal lid.
Looks cool on the shelf.
It looks cool on the shelf, and it's actually really awesome. It's a really nice can to buy just because of the novelty of the...
Although I suppose it does kind of look weird on the shelf.
It does stand out.
Like you got all these bottles and then...
Yeah. One of these is not like the rest.
Yeah, you have to almost put this in its own spot.
Yeah.
So, anyway, this is at 80 proof. Mm-hmm. But to get back to the flavoring, like something like a peanut butter whiskey, I'm pretty sure they're not resting that in small batch peanut butter. And then to pick up the flavors, it's just artificially flavored.
Yeah.
Cherry whiskey or
probably,
honey, whatever they have. This is actually not flavored, like you said, at least to the best of our knowledge.
Right.
It's just going to pick up some flavor from sitting in those coffee beans.
Yeah.
I don't know what that legally... That's not technically flavoring it, but I don't think you can do that and still call it a bourbon.
I think it's
you have to call it bourbon finished in coffee beans.
Yeah.
You're outside the legal bounds at that point because you cannot flavor bourbon.
Right. Well, you can. You just have to say, call it out.
Yeah. Boy, that's really chocolatey.
I was getting like really young notes. It's kind of interesting, like a grassy note.
Yeah, it's got a little bit of that. I think that if I didn't know that this was mellowed in coffee beans, I don't know if I would pick that up right away.
Yeah, it's not a coffee flavored thing.
It's there, knowing that it's there. Yeah. But it's got a really nice, I don't get chocolate on bourbon a whole lot. I know that's a fairly common note, but I just never get it.
Yeah.
And I really get it on this.
Get a really light, almost like butterscotchy kind of note.
Yeah, I can see that too. It's just like a bunch of candy.
Yeah, It does. It smells like it's gonna be super sweet.
Chocolate, caramel, toffee, butterscotch.
Yeah.
Anything you would put on top of ice cream, this kind of has in it. All right, I'm gonna go in for it here.
Here it goes. Toffee notes. Not as good of a name for a bourbon channel.
Wow.
Almond.
Yeah?
I wonder, do you think they're roasted coffee beans?
I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know a damn thing about coffee, so
Oh.
yeah.
It's almost like it's unroasted. Like, I'm curious. I'm gonna look this up.
I drink my coffee the exact opposite of the way I drink my whiskey. I just put a whole bunch of stuff in there. I just, for some reason, I can drink 130 proof bourbon and love it, no problem, drink it neat. And then coffee black, I'm just like, yeah, you might as well hit me in the face with a shovel. This has a really interesting nose to it. Yeah, I can't tell if this is, I mean, I'm sure it's a fairly young.
Yep.
It says, does it say it's straight bourbon? Rested? No, it just says blended bourbon. So.
It's got a really nice flavor.
It actually does, yeah.
It's not, this would be an okay bourbon to start someone out who maybe is a little bit apprehensive to try a higher proof point. Because it's not super spicy, but there's a, the 80 proof kick.
It's definitely, you're giving them something that's not traditional bourbon flavor.
Yeah.
And so, but I wonder if maybe like the dark flavors on this would be off-putting if you're new. Because I remember like being new to whiskey, like you were looking for it to be as smooth as possible, which just meant,
weak.
A little less flavor, a little weaker. And there's nothing wrong with that because when you start out, like when you get used to drinking higher proof stuff, what's weak to you now is actually bold and flavorful when you have a kind of a newer, when you're a little bit green on it.
Yeah, I'm really getting like a graham cracker finish.
I could see that, yeah, for sure. That might be what I was looking for that I couldn't pinpoint. Yeah, I think that's what it is.
It's good. It's definitely, some people just love that kind of lighter kind of approach to bourbon. Not
Total
quite so,
graham cracker.
Yeah.
After you said that.
Yep.
Still with that little bit of that chocolate. We're leaning into s'mores on this one.
I had this thought.
It kind of is. And so, full disclosure, when we've had this before.
We actually filmed a review of it.
Yeah, and as we mentioned in another recent review, we did a couple that day and my mic wasn't plugged in, so we had to twist our arm, get us to drink more whiskey and do them again.
Yeah.
But the last time I had it, I feel like I pulled more of that coffee flavor out of it, and this time I'm really getting, I'm just getting that graham cracker and chocolate.
Yeah, kind of notes.
I actually really like this.
I do too. I really do. And when I drink a bourbon like this is what I'm thinking is my wife would like this, and she is apprehensive to try whiskeys, bourbons. She recently liked the Basil Hayden Toast.
Yeah.
And that's the first one that she actually said she liked, but 80 proof.
Yeah.
So.
My wife recently took to drinking tequila. She just took a trip to Mexico and found a couple of bottles down there that she really liked. And so she sent me that. She's like, I'm bringing home a couple bottles of tequila. I was like, well, now I got to build another bar to put tequila in because it's not going up here. She actually said, she's like, I knew you were going to say that.
Yeah, that's okay.
You can put the tequila down here somewhere. It's actually really good. She brought it home. It's flavored, but it's pretty good.
I've had one or two. I've actually not had a lot of tequilas, but they are.
Tequila guy.
I don't know anything about them, but I've had one or two that are good. Mostly the big brands. They're not great.
You know what? Actually, we should try that because the only way I've drank tequila is the same way I used to drink whiskey. Inappropriately.
Yeah.
And so I've never really just sat down and sipped a tequila and,
Maybe it's not a bad idea for a video, actually. Is try one or two or several tequilas, rums, vodkas.
Vodka, I mean, which one's smoother than the last one is really all you're going to get.
I don't know. I've had a few, and I don't get the traditional, like, you can't taste it in a drink or whatever. Like, I think it has a flavor. It has a smell.
It just tastes like alcohol.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's not a great flavor, but it...
Yeah. Well, we have gone completely off the rails here.
Yeah. Back to the Stillhouse. It's still awesome. I really like it.
Yeah, I feel like
$25-ish.
Yeah, it's not expensive.
Yeah, it's kind of cool.
Yeah, it's a cool one to have in the collection for sure. Even if you're a seasoned, I always use that word, seasoned whiskey drinker.
It's calling me old.
No, I'm saying I always use that word. I think you commented on that in another video we did. You're like, I knew you were going to say seasoned. Oh. Yeah, I think this is a cool one to have on the shelf. It's kind of a desserty, like you said before.
Yep.
It's not flavored, but it is flavored at the same time. But it pulls those flavors naturally, and I think that's cool.
Yeah.
Kind of something just interesting to do. If you're gonna flavor a bourbon, that's a cool way to do it. It's just to like expose it to something that gives it extra flavor.
Yeah, don't dump artificial flavors.
Yeah, versus pouring like some syrup in there that tastes like honey, and now it's a honey bourbon.
Exactly.
So yeah, this is cool. And at 80 proof, I think it packs a lot of flavor versus some of the other 80 proofers you can find out there. But it's a different profile. I mean, it's not, if you want to just give somebody a taste of like a new person, like, hey, this is what bourbon tastes like, I would not start with this.
No, but it's still a bourbon. I mean,
Yeah.
it still kind of tastes like bourbon, but it is a little bit on the sweet side.
I would say I am pulling some notes out of this that I hear other people mention about bourbon that I just, like the chocolate, like I said earlier. Yep. And to be honest, like the graham cracker is not something I get a whole lot. I had in a couple other ones, but it's not a common one for me.
Yeah.
And I'm getting that on this, so it's kind of nice. So I think now, you and I have talked that every time you drink a new whiskey, whether you like it or not, there's something to learn from it. And so every time I'm exposed to something new where I pull some new weird note out, I can carry that forward and start to pick that out of other stuff.
Sure.
Like after having mellow corn for the first time, I was really able to find the corn notes in bourbon, whereas before I knew there was a flavor there, I just didn't really know how to describe it. And then I had the mellow corn. It's like, oh, this is what they mean when they're talking about
super sweetness of
and like that dry, dusty corn or cornbread sort of note.
Yep.
Like I just didn't know how to describe that, what I was tasting.
Yeah.
And then I had that and I was like, okay. And then I went out to different bourbons and I could pull that note out now. And so trying this, going forward, I wonder if I'll have a little more of a palate for like that chocolate graham cracker kind of s'more sort of taste.
They've got to do a s'mores.
But they have to crush up actual s'mores and then let the bourbon soak in that.
No, look,
and then just
they're
filter
almost there. They just need a little bit of like marshmallow sweetness, and it's close. It's definitely a sweet bourbon, but it's just something else.
The only other bourbon that I've had that kind of has a s'mores reputation is that Elijah Craig Toasted Barrel, which I was not a huge fan of.
Yeah, but you did mention s'more on that one.
Well, and I mentioned that because I had seen other people say it, and I just wasn't getting that from it. And then the second time around, I tried it, and I kind of got it a little bit more. Definitely getting it on this, though.
Yeah.
I think I actually like this better. That may be blasphemy to some people, because I love Elijah Craig, but I just did not like the Toasted Barrel as much.
Yep.
So anyway, yeah, this is good. If you're a whiskey collector, this is a cool one to have on the shelf.
Is. And while it looks like a budget kind of bottle, I really, really do like the container.
Yeah, I think it's really cool. And yeah, I think it deserves its place on the shelf for sure. I would have no problem drinking through a bottle of this.
Yeah.
You know? So I don't think if you're gonna buy it, it's gonna be a drain pour. You know, I mean, maybe some people it would, but yeah. It's got a lot of flavor. It's kind of a fun one. So yeah, check it out if you have this in your area, which I think this is available everywhere. So.
I think so.
All right, well, this has been Stillhouse Black Bourbon on the Bourbon Note. Ben?
I'm Greg. Thanks for watching. Cheers.